In this example, we will use a pivot table in Excel to create a cross-tabulation to summarize and analyze data. The data we will use in this example is fictional quality rating data for restaurants. The data appear here in Excel. In column A, we simply have an indicator of the number of the restaurant. Column B shows us the quality rating, which can be either good, very good, or excellent. Column C shows the average meal price at the restaurant, and column D shows the average wait time at the restaurant. Our goal in this example is to create something known as a cross-tabulation. A cross-tabulation is simply a table for describing data for two variables. The cross-tabulation we wish to create in this example is shown here. This one was created by hand. It shows a summary of the restaurant review data showing the quality rating, either good, very good, and excellent as a categorical variable on the far left side, and then along the top it has the average meal prices. In the body of the table is simply a count for the restaurants that are either in a good categorical variable, very good, or excellent, and in the average meal price. We will create this cross-tabulation using a pivot table in Excel. To create a pivot table in Excel, we click Insert on the ribbon, and from the Tables group, we choose Pivot Table. This will open the Create Pivot Table dialog box. Here, we want to select in the Table Range box all the data that we will be using to create our pivot table. So we select all of these data here, as shown. And then we also want to make sure that we choose a new worksheet as the location for where we want this pivot table to appear. We click on OK, and this opens a new worksheet that will actually contain the pivot table in Excel. We are now ready to create the pivot table by choosing the fields that will appear in our pivot table. Note that in Excel we have a pivot table fields task pane on the right-hand side. This is where we will choose which fields appear in our pivot table and how they appear. We will create the pivot table here by putting quality rating in the rows box. Note that this creates row headers in column A of our pivot table. Then we will choose average meal price as our column headers. And what we want to do is to actually create a count of the restaurants in each quality rating meal price category. So we'll choose restaurant and we'll drag that to our values box in the pivot table fields task pane. We want to change this so that it keeps a count, so we will click the little drop down arrow, click on value field settings, and change this from sum to count, and click OK. And what this does is to create a cross-tabulation that summarizes our data based on the two variables of quality rating and average meal price. Next, we want to clean up our pivot table so that it's a little bit easier to read and interpret. The first thing we'll do is we'll group our column headings, our average price rating, average meal price, into groups of $10. We do that by right-clicking on one of these column headings and clicking Group. We'll start at $10 and we'll group them into buckets of $10 each. So we'll click on OK. What this does is it creates column headings that are now labeled $10 to $19, $20 to $29, $30 to $39, $40 to $49 to give us our cross tabulation. Next, let's look at our quality rating variables. Over here in column A, you see that we kind of have a counterintuitive ordering of excellent, good, and very good. It'd be much more natural to order these as good, very good, and excellent. So what we will do is right-click on excellent, and we'll go down to the move and simply choose move excellent to end. Now we have the much more intuitive ordering of good, very good, and excellent. And so we can actually interpret the data in our pivot table as follows. What we can see is that good quality rating restaurants have 84 observations, very good are 150, excellent is 66. Our total number of restaurants in this sample is 300. And then we can look at good restaurants and their prices compared to, say, excellent restaurants. Excellent restaurants tend to be more expensive, which is not a surprise. 22 excellent restaurants were in the range of $40 to $49, whereas only 2 were in the cheapest range of $10 to $19. Restaurants that receive the lowest quality rating of good 42 of those were in the 10 to 19 range, and only 2 were in 30 to 39, and none were in the most expensive range of average meal prices. We can do several other things here. We can also change, instead of looking at these simply as a count, we can show these values as percent of grand total. And so what this does is it actually shows us that 7% of our total restaurants were in the excellent category and the most expensive price range, whereas 14% were in the good category and the cheapest price range. This is just a different way to look at the same data. The last thing we'll do with our pivot table here is that we'll look at the meal price as a variable of interest. To do this, let's remove the count of restaurant from the values box and add in wait time. We want to change this so that it's actually displaying the average wait time. So we'll change this value field settings to average and click on, we could just click on OK here, but let's actually clean this up so it looks a little bit better in our pivot table. We click on the number format button, click on number, and let's change this to 1 decimal place. What this will do is it will display the average wait time in a particular category for these restaurants using 1 decimal place. And we click on OK, OK again. And so what we see is now, instead of looking at the count of restaurants, we're actually looking at the average wait time in each of these settings, or each of these combinations of meal price and quality rating. So what we see is that the average wait time for restaurants in the excellent quality rating and cheapest meal price is 25.5 minutes. Not surprisingly, average wait times are quite a bit higher for excellent restaurants, 32 minutes, as compared to good restaurants, which have average wait times of just 2.5 minutes. So what we've done here is we've created cross-tabulations using pivot tables in Excel and seen how we can use these to both display and investigate our data.